Joining me now to talk more about the Nobel Peace Prize is an expert on the award. Louise Sherby is a professor at Hunter College in New York City. She's literally written the book on the who's who of Nobel Prize winners. We want to welcome you to the broadcast. Thanks so much for joining us. How often do you see
Thanks
something?
for having me.
How often do you see something like we saw today, where so many people are talking about one person, and then this dark horse emerges to take home the prize?
Well, the Peace Prize has always had that kind of record in a sense. I mean, they tend to be controversial for all kinds of reasons, mainly because we look at the winners through a political lens. For an organization to be awarded the prize is not so unusual. There's been 100 individuals who have won the prize, but there's also been 25 organizations that have won the prize. And in terms of the original idea of what the Peace Prize is supposed to be, it does seem to me that this organization fits into those criteria.
You mentioned 25 organizations. This went to a group, as you just pointed out. The EU got it last year. Do we ever see trends like this where you see organizations get it a few years in a row and then it goes back to individuals?
That's not so often, but over the years of the winning of the prize, there have been, a number of organizations, although sometimes the organization has been awarded, and in addition to that, there's been an individual who perhaps was the executive director or the founding, person for that organization. So oftentimes it's also been split between the organization and an individual. So it's been some overlap, but there are times when it's just been an individual organization without one person being singled out.
There have been controversial selections, though. There are some who feel as though U.S. President Barack Obama should not have won the award since he's ordered more drone strikes than his predecessor, George W. Bush. How often do you see it where the selection creates some controversy or stir?
Quite a bit, actually, and I think that's more prevalent in the latter part of the 20th century and into the 21st century, because I think the awards are viewed more through a political lens than they may have been in the past, and we also live in an age where information is pretty instant. Whether it's accurate or not is not the issue, but people have strong feelings about pro and con in individual award winners. So I think that's been much more prevalent since the latter half of the 20th century and going forward.
Louise, there have been so many historic figures who've accepted this award in the long history of the award. People like Martin Luther King in 1964, about 30 years later, Nelson Mandela. When you look at the full width of all of this, who's your favorite?
I think Mother Teresa, and that was one of the fewest that generated controversy. I think her life story was the embodiment to me of the Peace Prize. I think that was a wonderful award given.
And you mentioned her. Is she one of the few that are a clear choice where everyone seems to think, oh, yep, they got it right this time? Or are there more than Mother Teresa, would you say?
Well, there's been a few more. I mean, I think Bishop Desmond Tutu was another one where there was not so much controversy, and again, his life story, I think, also embodied what people now think of as the Peace Prize. And the International Red Cross Committee has actually won it as an organization 3 times. So to be recognized for the kind of work that they do. I mean, in the last, more recent history of the prize, I think the criteria seem to be, or the people who are awarded the prize, have worked mainly in human rights, peace movements and peace negotiations, women's rights, arms control, and I think today's winner is indicative of that continuing trend.
So, Louise, I'll put you on the spot. Who do you think should have won this year?
I think they actually got it right. I mean, it's hard. I wouldn't want to be the members of that committee for anything. I mean, it's got to be a very difficult decision, but I think this is a group that has been around. I mean, they've gotten more notoriety in a sense because of the recent situation in Syria, but they've actually been doing this work for a number of years. I mean, since the late 90s, I believe. And they go into situations where there is danger, and it definitely embodies one of the criteria, which was to reduce arms and standing armies as the original criteria. So I think it does embody what the the prize embodies in terms of what Alfred Nobel envisioned.
Louise Sherby, thank you so much for joining us from New York. Certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.